Is there a more intoxicating drug in sports than nostalgia? It blinds us. It makes us remember the grand slams and forget the strikeouts. It makes us yearn for a version of a player that simply does not exist anymore. Right now, a significant portion of the Chicago Cubs fan base is intoxicated by the memory of 2019, that magical half-season where Nick Castellanos arrived at Wrigley Field and looked like Babe Ruth reincarnated. He was hitting doubles in his sleep, he was energizing the crowd, and he felt like the missing piece. But we need to have a very sober, very difficult conversation today. It is 2026. That version of Nick Castellanos is gone, and bringing him back now wouldn't just be a mistake. It would be a disaster for a team trying to contend. The news out of Philadelphia is shocking, not because of the release itself, but because of the financial carnage left behind. The Phillies have officially cut ties with the 33-year-old slugger, choosing to eat the final year of his contract. That means they are paying him $20 million to not play for them. Let that sink in. A team with World Series aspirations looked at their roster and decided that a vacant locker was more valuable than Nick Castellanos. Why? Because the breakup was ugly. We aren't just talking about a slump. We are talking about a fundamental breakdown in professionalism. Reports have surfaced, confirmed by Castellanos himself on social media, that the end of his tenure in Philly involved a beer in the dugout incident during a game in Miami. He was pulled from the game, reportedly screamed at manager Rob Thompson and the coaching staff, and was subsequently benched. The Athletic dropped a bombshell report citing more than 12 players who detailed the fallout. When a dozen of your own teammates are willing to speak about how bad things got, that isn't smoke, that is a 5-alarm fire. So, why are we even discussing this for the Cubs? Because he's free. Any team that signs him now only pays the league minimum. It sounds like a bargain, right? A low-risk lottery ticket? Wrong. The cost isn't financial, it's cultural and structural. The Cubs are currently in deep talks with elite pitching targets like Zack, trying to build a serious contender. Distracting the organization with a reclamation project that just blew up a clubhouse in Philadelphia is the antithesis of smart baseball. We have to separate the warm, fuzzy feelings of 2019 from the cold, hard reality of 2026. The Cubs need value, not memories. And right now, Castellanos brings a suitcase full of baggage and a bat that has been slowly cooling off for years. Let's strip away the clubhouse drama for a second and look strictly at the baseball fit. If you sign Nick Castellanos in 2026, where does he play? This is not a rhetorical question, it is a logistical nightmare. We are not talking about a guy who is below average in the field. We are talking about a player who has consistently graded out as arguably the worst defensive outfielder in Major League Baseball for the last decade. His range is non-existent. His roots are an adventure. In the expansive outfield of Wrigley Field, especially when the wind is blowing out, you cannot hide him. Putting him in right field is essentially giving the opposing team free triples. This means Castellanos is strictly a designated hitter. He is a one-dimensional player in a game that increasingly values versatility. And here lies the massive problem for the Cubs. That spot is already spoken for. The Cubs have Moises Ballesteros, a young dynamic hitter who is slated to get the bulk of the DH at-bats. Ballesteros is the future, Castellanos is the past. By signing Castellanos, you are effectively blocking the development of a key internal piece or forcing your manager to play a defensive liability in the field just to get his bat in the lineup. Think about the roster flexibility. Modern managers like Craig Counsell thrive on matchups, double switches, and defensive replacements. A player who can only hit and cannot run or field is a handcuff. He clogs the roster. If he goes into a slump, which he has done frequently over the last few years, he offers zero secondary value. He doesn't steal bases. He doesn't save runs. He just occupies a spot. Furthermore, the DH-only role is a luxury that few teams can afford to waste on a league-average hitter, and that is exactly what Castellanos has become. Since his massive contract with the Phillies began, from 2022 through 2025, he has posted a combined WRC plus of exactly 100. That is the definition of league average. Do you really want to deal with the media circus, the beer in the dugout questions, and the defensive headaches for a guy who is statistically no better than the average replacement player? The Cubs are trying to close the gap in the NL Central. You don't do that by signing average players with baggage. You do that by finding marginal value. And Castellanos, despite the name recognition, offers negative value in almost every facet of the game except for the occasional home run. But wait, the optimists scream. We can just platoon him. He crushes left-handed pitching. This is the last refuge of the Castellanos defenders. The idea that he can be a specialist who mashes southpaws while Ballesteros handles the righties. It sounds great in theory. It sounds like a savvy veteran move. But unfortunately, the numbers simply do not support this fantasy anymore. The lefty killer narrative is running on fumes. Let's look at the trend line, because in baseball, trends are everything. In 2023, Castellanos was indeed a force against lefties, posting a massive 147 WRC plus and a .930 OPS. That is elite. But look at what has happened since. In 2024, that number dropped to a 124 WRC plus. Still good, but a decline. Then came 2025. Last season, in nearly 200 plate appearances against left-handers, Castellanos cratered. He posted a .680 OPS and a WRC plus of 87. An 87 WRC plus means he was 13% worse than the league average hitter against the very pitchers he is supposed to dominate. Why would the Cubs sign a specialist who is below average at his specialty? It makes zero sense, especially when you look internally. The Cubs have Matt Shaw, a young, hungry, athletic infielder who can also DH. Look at Shaw's numbers against lefties last year, a 125 WRC plus with 6 homers in limited action. Shaw is younger, faster, cheaper, and frankly, better. He represents the future of the franchise. Giving his at-bats to a declining 33-year-old who just got released for yelling at his manager is the kind of move that gets general managers fired. The data is screaming, stay away. The decline is not a blip. It is a steady downward trajectory that correlates perfectly with his aging curve. Bat speed slows down. Reaction times increase. The holes in the swing get bigger. Pitchers have figured him out. They know they can beat him with velocity up and spin down. The Cubs have a sophisticated analytics department. They see these same numbers. They know that the 2019 version of Castellanos is a ghost. Signing him now would be an emotional decision, not a logical one. And in the ruthless business of winning baseball games, emotion gets you fired. Logic gets you rings. So, where does this leave us? The Chicago Cubs are in a critical window. They are hunting for aces like Zack. They are trying to build a sustainable winner. They are trying to create a culture of accountability and precision. Nick Castellanos, for all the joy he brought us 7 years ago, represents the opposite of those goals in 2026. He represents a defensive liability. He represents a declining bat. And most worryingly, he represents a potential clubhouse distraction that this team simply does not need. The Phillies didn't release him because they are stupid. They released him because they were tired. They were tired of the drama, tired of the lack of hustle, and tired of the diminishing returns. If a team is willing to light 20 million on fire just to make you go away, that should tell you everything you need to know. The Cubs should not be the team that tries to put out that fire. We have to be willing to let go of the past. The memories of 2019 are safe. They are in the history books, but they don't help us win games in 2026. The Cubs have better internal options in Ballesteros and Shaw. They have better ways to spend their roster spots. They have a vision for the future that relies on athleticism and versatility, 2 things Castellanos no longer possesses. So, here is my final verdict. Hard pass. Do not sign him. Do not even invite him to camp. Let another team take the gamble. Let another team deal with the headlines. The Cubs have bigger fish to fry. We need pitching. We need defense. We need the future, not a fading echo of the past. I want to hear from you, Cubs fans. Am I being too harsh? Is the nostalgia worth the risk? Or do you agree that we need to move on and focus on the young guns? Drop a comment below with your take. If you think I'm wrong, tell me why. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more real talk about Chicago sports. We don't sugarcoat it here. We tell it like it is. See you next time.